welcome to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danica. Along with me, we have Mayor Eugene Foulcard with the City of Franklin. And it's so good to have you here,
Yes,
first of the year. And, I like to get all the mayors and the chiefs in as much as I can
yes,
because it's
thank
the
you.
beginning of a new year, right?
Yes, it is the
And
beginning
you
of the
have
new
a lot
year.
of things that you want to roll out. So for you, though, you've been in office now for 6 months in your second term. So you
Right.
went unopposed during your election, the mid-year. So how does it feel?
Well, it feels great that you get that confirmation from the citizens of Franklin that, they feel like you're doing a good job. I'm very, very thankful, and I thank God for giving me this opportunity to have served my first term and then to go in unopposed without that opposition is always a huge win, and I don't take that for granted. I've always worked as if I'm behind the eight ball because you have to keep working to keep things moving in a positive direction.
Right. And I will be remiss not to mention one of my favorite people, your mother.
Yes.
How you think she would have taken you going in
Well, she
a
would
second
have
term?
been very, very elated. As a matter of fact, I spoke about this at her funeral. Uh, she told me back in December of 2021, we need to start getting your reelection campaign kicked off. And so she was looking forward to all of this. And I think she smiled down from heaven and everything worked out well.
All right,
She would have been
awesome.
very happy.
Well, definitely wanted to get that in there because I know that she watched The Voice of
Yes.
the Coast. She was
Yes, she was
definitely
an
a person who
adamant
watched
watcher.
very often, so I
Yes.
had to mention her. Let's talk about some projects. I mean, you've been in
Yes.
for one term, now you're in your second term, and there are a couple of projects that are still ongoing even before your term,
Right.
but they're in the midst, and it's a kind of a all hands on deck. We have the Yokley Canal.
Right.
When we were doing news, we were talking about the Yokley Canal, and
Yes.
this has been, for what I understand, about 20 years in the
Yes,
making
about
for
22 years at
this
least.
flood control project. St. Mary Parish government, City of Franklin, as well as the Levee District.
Right.
Where are we within in that scope
Well, I'm very proud to
project?
say that we've gone out on bids. Our engineering, Miller Engineering, has worked very hard with us, along with the Levee District, the Drainage Board, and the St. Mary Parish government to get our bids out so that we could start this dredging project of the flood control system along the Yokley Canal because it impacts a great deal of the flooding concerns that we have on the western side of Franklin where Tash Action Clinic is, on West 3rd Street, Weber Street. So a number of those streets back up whenever we have heavy, heavy rains in that particular area. So we're very excited about the dredging of the Franklin Yokley Canal.
Now, you may or may not be able to answer this, but why is it taking so long? I mean, what?
Well, it takes a while. We had a number of issues with some of the property owners. We had some eminent domain problems where, we had to work with them over the course of the 20 years. We had a number of family members that had property along the Yokley Canal that we had to work all of those details out in order so that we can move forward with this project. So it just, the wheels of government sometimes turn slowly.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
it took us a while to work through all of those mitigating factors, but thank God we've gotten it done because it will help with a great deal of the flooding concerns we have on the western side of Franklin.
Well, thank you for answering that because I'm sure
Yes.
there are people out there saying, well, why did it take so long? But you're right, especially when it comes to acquisition, property acquisition,
Right.
and you got to go through so many family members,
Yes.
and oh, yeah, it can go on and on. Then there's Casey Street. There's been some issues with sewage and then backing up of that and, asphalting the streets. Where are we on that
Yeah,
project?
we're very excited that hopefully in 2023 we can move forward with the Casey Street project. It will be approximately a $3.3 million project. It is a major, major overhaul of Casey Street, which will enhance the drainage concerns, sewer concerns, and water line concerns, as well as re-asphalting the complete street. It will be a complete rebuild of Casey Street, which is, drastically needed in that particular area. And it has been ongoing for some time. that street has been on our capital outlay project list for at least 15, maybe 20 years. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that that also will come to fruition, hopefully in 2023.
Awesome. And it is just one street, but it affects so many
Yes,
other
yeah,
areas
it
along like
affects,
Weber
and
and
it's a
so.
major thoroughfare street where a great deal of cars transverse along Casey Street.
Awesome. Well, come on back. We've got much more to talk about right here in the Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. My guest is Mayor Eugene Foulcard with the City of Franklin. We've talked about some of the projects that are underway at the city, and now we want to kind of switch over to a little bit and talk about crime. I will say, going into this new year and the last couple of months, it's been fairly quiet in Franklin.
It has been. I thank God for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
knock on wood, right?
because it's very serious when you think of the senseless gun violence that has been exhibited not only in our area in Franklin, but in the Tri-Parish area and across the nation. There's been a spike of gun violence that I've never seen in my lifetime. But I think some of that could be attributed to the pandemic. You know, people were, inside, and there's a level of mental awareness, and I think you have to address the mental issues that are going on with some of this, and we have to continue to be very aggressive with fighting that level of gun violence in all of our municipalities. And I've always said I've had a zero tolerance for it in Franklin. I've always said if you shoot these guns in Franklin, leave, because we're going to cast that net, and we're going to apprehend some folks and get this under control. But thank God it has been quiet.
Yeah, and speaking of
Yes.
that net, I will say, I mean, because being a part of media, we're given a lot of the press releases. I think there was actually a few in the last couple of months that have been
Yes.
arrested because of the violence that has gone on
Right.
in Franklin in the last couple of years. Speaking of years, I mean, you've got Chief Beverly, Police Chief Morris Beverly, who
Yes.
just recently retired.
Yes,
And
yes.
Chief Morris Beverly.
Yes,
correct?
Chief Beverly
Yes.
tendered his resignation in November, and he resigned retired effective December 30th. I was, very sorry to, I didn't want to see him leave. I guess that would be the selfish side of me, but, I know that he had some health concerns that he needed to address, so I respected that. I look at Chief Beverly almost as a big brother, and he's done some things to turn some things around in the department in the last 4 years with, new uniforms, new equipment. We've gotten some new units. So there's some things that he's done to kind of change the culture in the Franklin Police Department. I'm very grateful for his service and the things that he has done in the city of Franklin as the police chief.
So I know there are some expectations that you have, and I know even prior to his appointment, you mentioned publicly you had some expectations of what you wanted in that department, but also what you want in the community. You always go, another saying of yours, you see something, say something.
Right.
So now, right now, you have Captain Tina Thibodeau, who is the interim police chief,
Right.
and you're on the search for a new police chief. Can you tell us a little bit about, what are your expectations? What do you want to see moving forward?
Yes, thank you so much for asking that. One of the things that I'm looking for someone that will be community oriented. I think community policing goes a long way, and I really believe that citizens are more at will to talk with the police department or talk with officers if there's a trust factor, but it has to work both ways. The officers and the police departments have to trust the community, and the community has to have a trust level with the officers. So that goes a long way with the community policing. And then if you see something, say something. They have to know if they call something in, their information will be confidential and it will be kept close to the vest so that we could bring these unlawful folks to justice that are out there doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. So that's one of the main things that I will be looking for, someone that will be community oriented and will have the best interests of the community at heart, and that is protect and serve.
And it appears that there's a lot of interest in this because there's 10
Yeah,
applicants,
we have 10 applicants.
3 internal and 7 from
Right.
outside of the department. So this is going to be pretty interesting. You're going to have your hands full. I also want to make mention before we go to break that it's going to be yourself, also your chairman, and also someone, a member of the public safety committee that's
Yeah.
going to be involved with the interviewing, as well as maybe someone from the civil service committee who's just going to kind of like observe, and
Right.
ultimately you'll have the final decision. With that said,
Exactly.
let's go to break. Come on back.
Okay.
We've got much more to discuss. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. My guest, Mayor Eugene Foulcard with the City of Franklin. Now let's kind of turn our focus to economic development. I was sitting here talking to you, and I was like, there was one business, and I don't know if I'm going to say the name, but it's gone. And I was like,
Yes.
oh man, it was a restaurant, kind of a food service place, and it's
Right.
gone. And it's only just one business. But what's
Right.
the climate like within the economy in Franklin?
Yes, well, the economy and the businesses in Franklin, we're still opening businesses in and around Franklin. I think there may be maybe 1 or possibly 2 that are not being utilized, or buildings or businesses on Main Street. So Main Street is just about totally full, and we've had, some lounges, bar rooms that have reopened. So we have a number of businesses that have opened in Franklin, and as well as we have a major company that we should be revealing within the next couple of weeks that will be possibly coming into Franklin, that I'm very, very excited about, and hopefully we could reveal that within the next couple of weeks.
I don't
And
like how you
I'll
got
let
this
you
old
know
hush
when,
hush.
when we're ready to do that.
Okay,
But
all right.
out of obedience to the company, I don't think they
Yeah.
were ready
Right,
to have
okay.
it revealed just yet. But hopefully within the next week or so, we should have a press release to that effect that we've been working on through the city, through the mayor's office and my administrative team to get this business to come into Franklin.
Okay. Now, I got to mention this, and not just because you're the mayor, but you mentioned the nightlife. You mentioned the bars. So the
Yes.
nightlife is kind of popping out there in Franklin,
Yes,
and,
we've been doing
and one
pretty
of which you
good.
can speak on because it is a family business. It's
Yes.
been around since 1950, and that's Joe's Lounge.
Yes.
I mean, 1950, that's a long time
Yeah,
to
going
still
on
be
73
in
years.
business.
Yes, it was a business that was started by my grandfather, Joseph Clayton Foulcard Sr., along with my grandmother, Louise Porter Foulcard, as well as my dad and all of his brothers, and one of my aunties who lives out in California. So it's really just my uncle Joe Jr. and my uncle Ted that's left. But my cousin Don Allen, he'll be running the club and the day-to-day operations. He and Charles Jr.
Okay.
So they'll be running the club. I'm very grateful that they have stepped to the plate because I feel like it's their season, and I think they'll do a great job of, running the club in the manner that my grandfather and my dad and his brothers ran it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all around to add and give advice on the things necessary to continue to run a good operation, and where people could be entertained and have a good time and be safe, because we're living in a precarious society right now, so you have to take your precautions in anything that you do right now.
Right, and of course, it has been remodeled, but let's jump on to something else for remodeling. That's Parks and Recreation.
Right.
You have some monies that have been slated or earmarked for some recreation
Yes,
remodeling.
as a matter of fact, we have about $1 million that has been earmarked through CDBG funding for the Bruce Hart Harris Community Center and the O'Neill Recreation Community Center on the near the old Franklin Foundation Hospital. So those two centers will receive brand new HVAC systems that will be COVID modified to help ward off any, you know, variants of the COVID-19 virus or anything of that sort. So we're very excited that hopefully we can get that started during 2023 as well, because it's very needed. We definitely need to get those new air conditioning units and heating systems in both of those two recreation centers.
Again, where's those fundings coming from? It's not ARPA.
That's coming through the Community Development Block Grant,
Okay.
but it's attached to some of the ARPA funding.
Okay, I thought
Yes.
so, because I know
It
we've
is
talked about this
attached to the
before at
ARPA
one
funding,
time.
yes.
Okay, all right, we have one more segment to go. Come on back
Yes.
right here on the Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. This is the last segment with Mayor Foulcard, so let's get right into it.
Yes.
Whew, festivals, right? I got a chance to talk to Mayor Grogan and also Mayor Duval Author, and festivals are doing pretty good. Mayor Grogan's talking about bringing back a festival, but you guys kind of have your 4 or 5 main festivals that
Right.
that are kind of an attraction that you kind of keep it constant. For instance, you have your Harvest Moon Festival, Soul Food Festival. Let's talk about that one, because that one is now in its maybe 3rd or 4th year. Going in maybe the
It will be the
4th
third
year.
year.
Third year,
for
yes.
the,
So
Soul
it's pretty
Food
new,
Fest.
but it has attracted a lot of people from outside of St. Mary
Right.
Parish.
Soul Food Fest that is sponsored by the 100 Black Men of St. Mary Parish has become a major success. We are very, very happy and grateful that, you know, they chose the city of Franklin so that we could serve as the host city for this particular event. We authorized the day as Juneteenth and celebrating Juneteenth Day. Back when I first became mayor, we started utilizing that day as a holiday. So we were one of the first in the parish to jump on board with the Juneteenth celebration. So I think that was part of the reason why, you know, the 100, you know, came to us with this particular event, and the fact that, you know, we have an ideal geographic location to host such an event. So we're very, very thankful and grateful for that endeavor.
Now it is on the water.
It is
but
on the
during
water.
that time, oh, it's so hot.
Very hot.
Very hot. But during the nighttime, it's actually really, really cool. But they're going to try to kind of do
Well,
something a little different to kind of help
in
out
speaking with
the heat, so to speak.
President Anna and even one of the members, Mr. Edward Jones, I think they are going to look at possibly having some misting or cooling stations that they have talked about, and even if the city could do something to, you know, even offset some of that cost, you know, we'll be willing to do that as well, because it does get hot out there, and especially in the middle of the day. So there could be some cooling stations similar to what you might see, like be it Universal Studios or Disneyland or Disney World, something like that, where there's some misting stations just to cool people off so that they're not overheated.
That's right.
And, you know, I just tell people to please stay hydrated during these particular type events.
Yeah, even if you're outside in your garden, I mean, they tell you to stay hydrated.
Exactly.
Another big event is Bikers on the Bayou. That's held in conjunction with Chamber of Commerce, excuse me. And that also brings in a lot of individuals from outside of the parish as well.
Yes.
And we've got the New Year's Eve celebration and then the Christmas Golf Parade, which I will say I was very happy to be a part of. I was one of the judges. Don't come for me. I think we were very fair. But these are some of the consistent and constant, rather, festivals you have every year.
Again, Soul Food Fest, Bikers on the Bayou, Harvest Moon Fest at the end of October, and then we also run that in conjunction with Boo on the Bayou, which was also a huge success this past October on Halloween night. We had almost 4,000 people that came through the Boo on the Bayou. So that was very, very successful. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. So that was very, very successful. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days, 2 nights. 2 days, 2 nights. And then we have our annual golf cart parade. 2 days the Mingle and Jangle, and then our annual New Year's Eve celebration.
Let's talk about Bull in the Bayou. You're right. I just happened to pass by, and when I take the lines were wrapped around the
Yes.
block.
Yes. It
Well, yeah,
has
what
become
y'all
a-
giving out? Y'all giving
Well,
out furniture?
The thing about it is all of the businesses and
Yeah.
organizations have bought in and
Mm-hmm.
in participating with the city of Franklin in doing this, and they drive their vehicles up, pop the trunk, and they
Yes.
give out candy, and it gives the kids a safe environment to trick or treat,
Mm-hmm.
and they're safe. They're in a particular area
Yeah.
where they are taken care of.
That's right.
and
One centralized location.
One centralized location.
And it's, like you
Yes.
said, it's very safe. Thank you so much
Yes,
for
you're
being here.
welcome.
We appreciate you. Appreciate you for tuning into the Voice of the Coast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Facebook. We are KWBJ TV 22. Take care.